So one thing with regard to this particular pyramid scheme that makes use of this intransigent minority, in Taleb's words, to make a tiny minority position appear to be the majority, is that many pyramid schemes are basically opt-in. You get approached, and there's this external motivator, and external motivators tend to be either carrot or stick. And this is part of why external motivation is not nearly as effective or honorable as internal motivation. But external motivators tend to be carrot or stick. And a typical pyramid scheme is using the carrot of your own greed, right? Your own greed for wealth. And therefore, when it's carrot, it can be opt-in. It can be like, come to the carrot. But this one here, it seems to be opt-out, and it's using the stick. It's using fear. It's using the fear of being hurt if you don't succumb, if you don't get in line, as the way that it motivates people to join.
And it's not even, there's an opt-out component, but are we opted out? I mean, it seems to me we've got live stream after live stream talking about the fact that we are not on board with this thing, but we cannot affect the fact that the mayor/police commissioner of our city has decided not to enforce the law locally, and the New York Times has decided to portray federal action to enforce the law around federal buildings as a fascist incursion. Mm-hmm. So we are being set up, right? So as much as we would like to opt out, we can opt out of the narrow thing of participating in spreading the Ponzi scheme, but we cannot opt out of its consequences. They have opted everybody in. And so what I think needs to be understood is nobody has any idea what fraction of the population of Seattle actually organically believes that abolishing the police and abolishing prisons would be a good idea. It's not a large percentage. It's not a large percentage of Black people. It's not a large percentage of anything. What it is contagious. And so the question is not how many people will say Black Lives Matter, therefore these downstream consequences, right? Because those people are rationalizing their own participation in a Ponzi scheme, right? And you can actually see this in the history of Ponzi schemes. The initial Ponzi scheme involved stamps. Then there was a bunch of pyramid schemes. You and I remember as kids that there was this pyramid scheme moment where the FBI started busting pyramid schemes. And there was
like the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I think it was 70s. It was, and there was all of this footage of like these rooms full of card tables. People had rented these spaces for their pyramid schemes, and people were marched out in handcuffs and all of this stuff. And then there was this next phase, which was the multi-level marketing version, where instead of just having a pure pyramid scheme, you pretended it was about a product, right? And so anyway, this is now...
So the House of Cards has something inside of it.
Right. You're selling some object rather than selling an opportunity to participate in a pyramid scheme, right? So that you can rationalize that this is really about knives or water filters or whatever the hell was being sold.
Beauty products, yeah.
Right, beauty products. So now we're in a new phase, and that's kind of the point here, is the new phase is there's no product. There is a message that is being carried forward, and that message is structured so everybody can sign on, right? If you can't sign on to Black Lives Matter, there's something wrong with you. And I actually agree with that. At the slogan level, yeah, Black lives are undervalued. Anybody should be able to sign on to that. But having signed on to it, what have you dragged in with you? You've dragged in all of these nonsense proposals, these civilization-ending proposals, right? Which you can disavow. You can say, oh, no, but, I got attacked on Twitter. Nobody is saying abolish the police. Really? I can read it in the New York Times, right? Yep. It's right there. But you can tell yourself what abolish the police means is defund, which means reduce the militarization, yada, yada, yada. All of the rationalizations. So
But you see on the official Black Lives website, which is the one thing that they have given to those of us who would like to make them accountable for what they're doing, right? You see, as we've talked about in past live streams, them going after the nuclear family, them conflating trans Black lives with all Black lives, and rising in the ranks, trans lives, over all sorts of other lives. You see official Black Lives Matter accounts going after Israel. So, in what way is anti-Semitism about Black Lives Matter? In what way are trans lives about Black Lives Matter? In what way is the nuclear family an attack on Black Lives Matter? I mean, really, that's the most obvious one to say, what are you guys doing?
Right. Yeah, it's preposterous. But okay, let's go to the next phase. So you've got absolute nonsense arguments. You've got policy, which is moving at an incredible rate. Like Seattle is now playing with the most dangerous moves based on the idea that there is public outcry demanding these things, when that public outcry is itself based in part on fear and in part on a pyramid scheme. And there's no way, we are literally not supposed to be making policy on the basis of people being violent in the street, right?
Right.
And yet that's what we're about to do. And it looks very much like Taleb's point about the tiniest minority being able to drive policy, which is absolutely undemocratic.